G'day all. This is an update to the Vox AC15 hand-wired amp that I did some work on just over a year ago. I recapped it and rebiased it and did a few other bits and bobs. In the meantime, I have since then replaced the stock Celestion greenback speaker with the Celestion Alnico Blue, because I've never actually heard a Celestion Alnico speaker before, so I thought this is an interesting opportunity. And I can also use the same speaker in a few other amps as well. So there's the greenback, there's the Alnico Blue. Very similar cone structures with ribbing and very similar sized voice coils. In fact, they look pretty much the same speaker, just the magnet in the motor is different. An interesting feature of the Vox AC15 speaker baffle is that they've left this vertical piece of plywood that would cover right over the dust cover of the voice coil, so it would act as a beam blocker. I don't know if that's intentional, whether this is just a mechanical support for the baffle, but either way it's a good idea in a Vox amp. These things are notorious for being bright beaming face peelers. And there she is, the Alnico Blue, safely installed in this extremely heavy plywood cabinet. So the other bit of work I did was to rebias the amp again. The stock bias resistor was 120 ohms, that was way too hot. So I did some mucking around and some tests and found that 180 was a pretty good compromise. It draws about 70 milliamps across the pair of EL84s in this configuration, so that's a nice compromise between too hot and too cold. I like it. And what you can see in front of you now is my whiteboard with the bias calculations that I actually did as an exercise in applied science and algebra with one of my kids. The top left hand corner shows a simplified triode valve to represent the output valves. We'll just draw a veil over the fact it's a triode. The calculations are in that red box underneath. Box, I say. R is 150, that's the value of the cathode resistor. VK, that's the voltage drop across the cathode resistor. VA, that's the anode voltage. RK, that's the actual resistance of the cathode resistor as measured. And VAE is 309, that's the effective anode voltage. That's the anode voltage subtract the cathode voltage, so the difference between the anode and the cathode. The calculations are to the right. What we're doing is working out how much power these output valves are dissipating. And to do that, we need to know how much current is flowing. Luckily, we can do that really easily by working out the current flowing across the cathode resistor. To do that, we use Ohm's law, which is the first thing written at the top there, V equals IR. We reorganize that to isolate I, so I equals V over R. The V in this case is the voltage drop across the cathode, and the R is of course the resistance of the cathode resistor. Do the calculation, simple division, and it comes out as 78 milliamps. So we have the current flowing through the pair of output valves. To calculate the power, we've got to multiply that by the effective anode voltage, that was 309 volts. So doing that simple multiplication, it comes out to 24 watts or 12 watts per valve, which is just a little bit high for the poor old EL84, which is why I didn't stick with this 150 ohm resistor. Below the red line is the data and the calculation for the 180 ohm cathode resistor. Cathode voltage is 12.2, anode voltage has gone up to 325. Similarly, the effective anode voltage is up by about 4 volts as well, 313. This is what we expect to see when we're playing around with bias, that when the current goes down, the voltage will go up, and vice versa. This is why biasing output sections is a bit of a balancing act, and what you're really playing with here is the power of the power transformer. So repeating the calculations above, we divide the cathode voltage by the cathode resistance to get its current. It comes out to just under 68 milliamps, so 34 milliamps per valve. To calculate power, we multiply that by the effective anode voltage, and it comes out to about 21.25 watts total, so 10.6 watts per valve, which is a much happier place for the EL84s. It seems to be a common problem in modern EL84 amplifiers that they're biased way too hot. There's way too much current flowing and the poor things just flog themselves to death. The difficulty is that if you change the bias to lower the current, the voltage goes up and it's very easy to exceed the maximum voltage ratings of the EL84s. So one way you've got too much current and the valve's going to red plate and die. The other way you've got too much voltage and you're inviting shorts. It's not so much a problem in this particular example. As you can see, we've biased it to a happy place. But in some amplifiers, some very popular commercially mass-produced amplifiers, Blues Junior, excuse me, it's not possible to find a happy medium. The reason being, they've used a power transformer that is just too much for the circuit. The VA rating is too high and it kills the valves. And I just want to emphasize, that's not a problem with EL84 valves. It's not even a problem with modern manufacture EL84 valves. It's a problem with circuit design and modern amp manufacture. The slack bastards are using the wrong components.